What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college football, and today we are going through a best ball draft on Underdog. Sorry for all the timing changes. Turns out it is very challenging to get these things full and especially predict when the time will start. We're just going to be doing the draft and discussing all the picks made throughout. If you are in this draft or if you have a question about any of the players selected, please go ahead and throw that into the chat. And if it's after, we'll go through any of the picks. We are going to bring up the draft right now and talk about all the picks as they come. We are currently sitting in the 6th spot. One other thing we're trying to do, some of you have talked about audio in the past with these videos. I'm working on it. Basically, I've pulled up every single stop at this point. If the audio is still choppy, just need a new computer. So we're last case right now. If it doesn't work, we will be getting a new computer and hopefully fixing that soon. Top of the board, fairly chalky so far. You do see a lot of variance between these top picks. Bryson Washington coming off the board before Darius Taylor and Desmond Reed is a bit of a surprise. Hopefully we can lock up one of those players. They're the top two guys on my board. We gave a rankings refresh yesterday, full refresh. That's available in the Discord if you want. Those are top two players for us. They both go, which kind of puts us at a weird spot. 6 is tricky. Tyson is the top of ADP. Edwards is a little lower. We'll take Tyson, just not trying to deviate from ADP too much in the beginning of these rounds. And he's not a player I'm very exposed to. In a vacuum, if you forced me to pick, would have been Dylan Edwards. But if you find yourself in the 8, 9, 10 spot, you get Dylan Edwards quite a bit. So I'm a little overexposed to him at the moment, which will put me to Tyson. With that said, I think Tyson is a very good player just on his own. Playing with Arizona State should be an absolute alpha there. As the first round comes to a close here, Arch Manning goes, Jeremiah Love goes, Kai Hughes goes. It is a very chalky start outside of Bryson Washington going ahead of Desmond Reed and Darius Taylor. But also, good morning, everyone. I see Jordan Vanek is in this again. Jordan Vanek seems to be in every single one of these drafts. This is probably the toughest spot. I've actually found myself in his position a couple times where you're sitting at the turn, the end of the first round, and you have to pick some combination of Jeremiah Love and Isaac Brown, two players I'm down on relatively. There's an end of a tier for me at pick 10. And once you get past that, if no one fell, you do have to debate between Arch Manning, Jeremiah Love, and Isaac Brown, all players I would rather wait on. So it puts you in a tricky spot. My preferred spot to draft is like 7 or 8, getting right outside the top 6. A lot of times one of those elite players will fall to you. And if not, you can take like a Dylan Edwards or something and feel pretty good about it, not find yourself with that tough decision at the turn. Seeing a little run of quarterbacks go. This happens every single time. If we get Hankerson, we are going to run this up to the board, and we do. So we take the Oregon State back, sort of in a unique situation, playing in that 2-team Pac-12. So he basically faces the Mountain West. Oregon State has improved quarterback play with Malik Murphy coming in. There's no competition for him in this backfield, and he already was a workhorse over 1,000 yards last year. It is kind of a tough decision between him and Devin Dampier, another player I really like in the second round. But you get Hankerson with the ADP advantage. He's just someone we're running up to the board in most cases when it gets to this spot. Nussmeier comes off the board. I'm warming to him a little bit. He's still not my favorite player as a pocket passer who takes a lot of sacks behind an offensive line with 4 new bodies. Not my favorite, but you could certainly look to him. Definitely prefer Haynes King. Love the Eric McAllister pick. This is a little ahead of ADP. We are way ahead of ADP on him in our rankings. I think there's a good chance he finishes as the wide receiver 1, just with the volume he's going to get in TCU, and that's from a fantasy standpoint, not necessarily an efficiency standpoint. TCU is just going to throw a lot more than Ohio State and Alabama, presumably. He completes the stack with Hoover. I'd rather just have him naked. But now we are getting up to the top of running back again. It's a very strong running back crop at this point in the draft. We're probably pushing quarterback a little bit. If you look at ADP, Sawyer Robertson is the top option, not someone I'm too enticed with. At the top of wide receiver, Cam Coleman is there. They had the Georgia Tech transfer to compete with him, so that's not my favorite either. Waymon Jordan for USC is the top of our board. We're going to take him. We're a little out ahead of Waymon Jordan in terms of ADP, but not much competition. Eli Sanders allegedly has fallen behind in that competition. Typically, I'm not trying to draft JUCO backs making the jump to Big Ten football. You follow the breadcrumbs with these guys via beat reporting, and with Waymon Jordan, it seems like he's absolutely in the lead of that backfield. Deion Burks goes, Cam Coleman goes, Justice Haynes, Jonah Coleman, Ahmad Hardy, pretty strong running back range. I feel like we got towards the top of that tier. Hardy's my least favorite out of any of them, coming from UL Monroe to Missouri with a lot of change. Then goes Contravian Wisner, Caden Durham, Wayshawn Parker just goes, sort of ending that running back tier for us, as well as Mekhi Lemon, the top receiver on my board, goes a little ahead of ADP, which is a shame. I'm generally getting him around pick 45. So we miss on him. Top of ADP is still Justice Haynes. There's Elijah Surratt. And Elijah Surratt is the player we will take, having two running backs already. On that, yes, we have Justice Haynes ahead of Elijah Surratt. Running back is significantly deeper in these drafts. In fact, you can get the counterpart to Justice Haynes in that same backfield, which will be a timeshare to some degree much, much later, double-digit picks. So trying to sort of take that approach where I know the depth of running back is something you can rely on late. Receiver, there are a couple dart throws you can throw darts on, but it's still not the best position to try and address if you're just going completely late round wide receiver. Eventually here, we're going to have to look at quarterback, though. LJ Martin comes off the board, 10 picks a ADP. That is something that I strongly disagree with. That backfield could be an absolute mess. They did have someone, I don't know if he left the team, but he wasn't listed on the roster, Huanga, which sort of further narrows that backfield. But BYU has a chance to be extremely bad this year, losing their quarterback. Then goes Marcel Reed. Love that pick. Nate Frazier, solid pick. James Peoples is drawing rave reviews. It looks like he's sort of iced CJ Donaldson. That's awesome, too. Wakey has a phenomenal team. He is taking all of the players towards the top of our rankings. Taylon Green goes. I was very much hoping to get him, which leaves us with a tricky decision, probably. Kenyon Sadiq goes. I actually have Austin Simmons at the top of my board, which almost never happens. Not a pick I like making, but I guess we're getting in 10 spots below his average draft position. Simmons is the 4-star new starter for Ole Miss. Worries are he's just not that good. He's not the highest 4-star, but he's drawn rave reviews. He can run. Ole Miss is a very run-heavy team, and Lane Kiffin is known for loading up awesome offenses. Dejon Stribling is still at the top of the board here for us. Maybe he falls, but the other positive about Austin Simmons, you can stack him very easily late. This offense has a good win total. It's 8.5, I believe. So sort of holding my nose and just taking the value 10 spots after he should go, typically. Starting a little run on receivers, Eugene Wilson, Chase Cole, Ryan Wingo. So easily my least favorite of that group. Bryant Wesco just goes to, as well as Dante Moore, a little ahead of ADP, which is not something I'm willing to do. On Moore takes a lot of sacks, completely unproven. Now in his third year of college football, completely new group of skill position players. We will see. Stribling goes well ahead of us. Not too surprising. I wasn't really expecting to get Stribling. Just would have been nice. Sorsby goes. Decorian Moore. Vanek, I'm guessing Vanek tried to stack him. No, he did not stack him. Just takes Decorian Moore on his own. He's a 5-star freshman. Very, very talented, so I'm not terribly surprised. Top of ADP is very gross. Maeva is someone we have ranked well below, so I'm going to just defer to the wide receiver Carnell Tate, wide receiver 2 at Ohio State, presumably. Maeva is a guy I'm not sure makes it through the entire season as the starter with as many turnovers as he commits. We also don't have a stack. That's really the only time I am reaching ahead of ADP for that kind of player. So we'll work on our Ole Miss stack and fill this out with mid-range quarterbacks. I will say, if you start like this and you have maybe one quarterback through 6 rounds, I would not panic. Based on our evaluation, the mid-round quarterbacks are very strong. Players we do have above ADP include Castellanos, Ty Simpson, Carson Beck. We're right on ADP with Arnold. We're right on ADP with Sayin. We're ahead on Drew Aller. We're ahead on Drones. Slightly behind on Mendoza, a little ahead on Baron Morton, definitely ahead on Miller Moss, CJ Bailey. This is a strong range. So I'm definitely not panicking at this point in the draft by any means as we come towards the middle rounds. So one thing we'll have to debate is Julian saying here, we already have Carmel Tate. This would give us a stack of Ohio State in the pass game. And this is one we'll just run up to the window. It's after he usually goes. Elite recruit, 5-star, taking over that Ohio State quarterback room from Will Howard. We already have Carmel Tate, so I'm not the biggest name guy. I'm generally not trying to take two new incoming callers who have never really played. But in this case, we already have the stack going, so we'll just have to draft some veterans late to round out our quarterback room and hopefully give this some balance. Jackson Arnold goes again in the vacuum. I would rather have Arnold to Sayin, but we already have the receiver. So in this case, we made a bet on Ohio State. We need Ohio State to play well. We will continue that bet. Castellanos to an awesome pick. Eugene Wells is not a guy I'm in on. I don't think he plays the whole year as the full-time starter. More on that, I guess, right now. We've talked about this a lot, sort of see the previous season, teams like Iowa, Syracuse, that had a bell cow running back, LaQuint Allen, Caleb Johnson, and they assume there's going to be a bell cow running back in the offense the subsequent season. I think that is a poor bet. We've seen that fail a lot. We just saw it fail with Ole Miss last year when people thought, okay, Rashad Amos is going to replace Quinshon Judkins, and then he barely played. He was active in like 2 games. So not only are you betting on the offense being strong again, which Syracuse very well might not be. Their win total is like 4.5, 5.5. Then you're betting on him winning the job, which all of this is very, very difficult to predict. Not to mention he was not even the second stringer last year when things got a little bit crazy. But we're coming up on the board again. Mendoza goes, Beck goes, quarterback. Not the strongest right here. Either we reach on somebody or we push this a little further. One player, the biggest difference we have in ADP between our ranks at quarterback is Rocco Beck. So he is absolutely a player I am not drafting. Plan on coming in with near 0 of him. Adam Randall's an interesting pick. He's a guy I'm having a little bit of a hard time with. I have 0 right now. But all reports coming out of Clemson is that he's getting the first crack at this RB1 job. He's the converted receiver. They just don't have a lot behind him, so I can kind of why this is the case. They have a 4-star freshman, but he is, again, a freshman. We will see how that goes. Bubba Trailer, I disagree that this has a deep RB field. Everyone after Mark Fletcher Jr. has major issues. What are the issues? I could see maybe timeshare, but some of these timeshares are in elite offenses. Here in a second, but I'll have to grab some of these guys. So, Bubba, I would like to know your concerns with individual backs. I agree with you. I think there are some. I honestly think some of them are worth betting on because people are making bets on situations ahead of Mark Fletcher. And Mark Fletcher, I mean, he has concerns too. There's another back in that offense that's probably going to play a significant amount. But anyway, even like an Adam Randall, who I just took, the concern is 4-star freshman beats him out. We're talking about an Adam Randall who's never really played the position. So I think there are concerns like across the board with a lot of these guys, especially when you get below like the top couple rounds. At this point, we need quarterback. I think this is a pretty easy Drew Aller selection. He's right around ADP. We need a veteran. We have 2 new-coming quarterbacks. Aller is somewhat mobile. He plays in a Penn State offense that has a 10.5 win total. It's going to be run heavy. It is what it is. We are already dealing with a lot of risk at quarterback. I think some stability makes some sense. And Penn State also has a layup games. But yeah, But as we go forward and try to talk through some of the running backs a little later after the Mark Fletcher area. He's coming off the board at 120. So, yeah, as you look a little later, like TJ Harden, okay, he plays in an SMU offense. He's probably going to lead it, is what it is. CJ Baxter is going to be in a timeshare with Weisner. Almost have zero Stewart. I have zero Bishop. I have zero Watson. I have zero Ray. I have very little Mahdi, Turbo Richard, CJ Donaldson, we already talked about. I agree with you. The backs that come off the board through the next 3 rounds, I think are all awful picks. Where I think you can honestly catch an edge is taking players that are in similar positions like Caden Fagan, Jordan Lyle, even later, Roman Hemby, Jordan Marshall. These guys are in timeshares and they go around 20 or so. Some of them a little higher, like 18. You can find some guys, I think, that are comparable. I'm trying to avoid that area that you talked about right after Mark Fletcher. So in that, we agree. Otherwise, I think late round running back, let's say 17, 20, is extremely robust. And I think we took Randall because of his upside. Like, we're on the clock here in a second, so we'll continue this in a moment. But I think there's some potential to get some players late that make a lot of sense. We're at 115. The highest on our board is Trent Walker. He had over a 30% target share with Oregon State. Again, they upgraded quarterback. I already have Henderson, so I'm not sure I want to double down on this offense. But at this point, I do think it makes some sense. There's just not very much competition there, and they're going to be pass heavy with Malik Murphy coming in. So we'll take Trent Walker. He's competing with Darius Clemens, I guess, the best player on that team, the former 4-star. It'll compete with him, but we'll see. Anyway, timeshares won't win you money in the finals, barring injury. I don't agree with that because, like, Penn State has a timeshare. Keaton Allen had 1,000 yards. Like, I'll highlight a couple timeshares that we're ahead of, and you can agree or disagree. Like Illinois, both of the running backs in Illinois are going outside the top 150. The team has an 8.5 win total, and they run the piss out of the ball. So I'm extremely exposed to both of them. We're up in a couple picks, so I'll continue this thought bubble. But I think one thing you're wrong. I think there are landmines, but there are a few backfields that I think make a lot of sense to me that aren't being drafted. Illinois being the primary one, they have like 4 starters back in the O-line and an 8.5 win total, and no one's drafted either back. Like, are we assuming Khalil Valentine is playing? I'm personally not, but we'll see on that. We have no tight end yet. We can take RJ Maryland here. It's a little ahead of ADP, or we can go to the top of the running back room. It's not something that I typically am looking at too much. My favorite player is Eric Singleton, so we'll take that before time runs out with Auburn, giving us a strong receiver room. But back to that running back conversation quickly. As we go into the late rounds, Jordan Lyle is probably going to play at least some role in that Miami backfield, average 7 yards a carry. And then once you get a little deeper, some of these timeshares, like Nate Palmer's being drafted at 190. He's not the starter with TCU. It's Payne. So, like, there are also just some errors people are making in draft rooms. Like, you want the TCU lead back, you pick him in the 20th round. Jeremy Payne. Nate Palmer's running as like the 3rd stringer in camp. That's like, I don't understand. Ruben Owens, that Texas A&M team is going to run the ball a ton. They have 3 guys, which is why I don't like it. Jadarian Price, Notre Dame is 3 guys. That's why I don't like it. And actually, I'm going to sort by my ranks. This will help a little bit more. Again, Aiden Lawfree, pick 232. You go down. Noah Whittington, that's going to be a timeshare in Oregon, 229. Jacoby Jackson, 237. It's going to be a 50-50 split at Florida. If you would have isolated the Florida running back room to 2 guys last year, they both would have been 1,000-yard rushers. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of confidence that people have in these timeshare backs at the top, and then for some reason they're underrating certain running backs late. But yeah, tell me what you think on that, especially the Illinois situation. I think that one's being grossly misjudged by people. As we come up on the board, hopefully we can get Bo Pribula. We're still a little weak at quarterback. That would give us – we can't. Perfect. Would have given us a dual threat, but it makes sense that he goes there. We currently have 3 QBs, 3 running backs, 5 wide receivers. This is a very down part of the draft, in my opinion, in terms of overall rankings. Quarterback is weak. Zevi Eckhouse is not a player I am interested in. So if we turn to the ranks, The only player kind of towards the top of our ranks is Trevor Pena. We are getting him 2 picks ahead of ADP. The only reason I think this is okay is we have Drew Aller, so that gives us another stat. Our QBs are stacked. We have 6 receivers now, probably cooling it on this position for a little bit as we move into the later part of the draft. Penn State scored 37 points in the final last year. Allen was in a timeshare and got 120 yards and a touchdown that's not going to ship if that's the goal. I mean, I don't know how many passes you caught, but you're talking about 18 points on that. I was in the finals. I'm going to pull up my finals team right now. I'm pretty sure like 18 would have scored. And I finished 21st. And that's not even considering any sort of catches he had. I don't know if he had any catches, but like that's an 18-point floor. That's pretty good. And especially he's like a 10th round pick. And there's upside for more. But anyway, I'm going to pull up my results and see if that would have scored for me because I don't recall. All right. At running back, a team that finished 21st in the final. Yeah, that would have scored. I had Dylan Sampson in my 21st ranked team who scored 17. So I think 18 points is fine. We'll talk about that more in a second here. Anyway, we're coming up to draft. My favorite quarterback in this range, wait, would be Gunnar Stockton. We're going to take him. Some mobility, elite Georgia team, 9.5 win total, upgraded receivers with Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas. Absolutely think that is fine at this point in the draft. We now have 4 quarterbacks, Austin Simmons, Julian Simmons, Gunnar Stockton, 3 running backs, Anthony Hankerson, Waymon Jordan, Adam Randall. Absolutely a little weaker here. Pretty strong at receiver with Jordan Tyson, Elijah Surratt, Arnold Tate, who is stacked, Trent Walker, Eric Singleton, and Trevor Pena, who is stacked. That's how we get there. But yeah, 5 picks away again. Dylan Raiola goes. CJ Donaldson goes. Jordan Vanek is up. Pick 163. We'll run this one up to the board if we can. I'm on my ranks right now. Fagan is by far the highest player on our board. Ashton Hawkins is 2. He recently got cleared. We're not really in a good position to take another receiver. So we'll pick ADP-wise. Luke Altmaier could make some sense. He's not my favorite player, but he's really I guess we could go for Corbin Wright. That would probably make the most sense at tight end considering we already have Austin Simmons. So Daquan Wright is storing up boards after the Luke Haas injury. People are reporting that it might not be as bad as we think. So there is some risk with Daquan Wright. We took him a couple picks ahead of where I would like to. We have him ranked right around ADP, but it's not anything significant. I personally prefer like a Michael Trigg who Hickey just took. He's got a lot of that Baylor offense, I think. And it's a good offense to take. We're very high on him. We still need a couple running backs. We're trying to finish this with at least 5 QBs, 6 to 7 RBs, 6 to 7 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. So we're still light at RB. The top of the RB board in terms of the ADP, Roman Hemby, Jordan Marshall, Miles Montgomery. I think these are all semi-worthwhile dart throws. Marshall just goes. Hemby's going to lead the Indiana backfield. There are going to be other players involved. That's just the way Indiana plays. UCF has about 4 guys competing. I think Jaden Nixon has a decent chance to take that job, but Montgomery and Nixon are going to be in that battle. Pryor, I'm not super enticed by. He'll be battling Tawee Walker. Otherwise, at the top of QB, Altmaier, I think we could do better waiting a little bit. Wide receiver, there are some interesting guys. Jonte Cook is a dart throw that might be worthwhile. Tight end is a position we'll probably push till the final round, unless somebody comes up as a stacking partner like a Delp or something. Which brings us to running back, the top of the board. This will be a little ahead of ADP on Roman Hemby, but I think he is the most secure at this point in the draft for us, giving us our RB4. And we are in round 15 now, so 5 picks left. A bit yet to be determined. Guy that came in third had Allen, and he didn't take that score. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Kind of depends on how you get your points too. My team had, I have it pulled up. They finished 21st, scored 41 from Taj Brooks, 21 from Jeremiah Love, 17 from Dylan Sampson. But yeah, I mean, it's all dependent on where you finish. I would take 120 yards in the touchdown from a timeshare back in the 17th round. But, you know, like you don't, obviously you would like a higher score if you could. So at the top of our board, Chandler Morris at quarterback, Miles Montgomery. Then we have the pass catchers, which we're not really looking at. We'll pivot over to ranks. Makes a lot more sense here. Honestly, I think taking a flyer on Ashton Hawkins is just going to have to be what we do. He should be probably a top 100 pick by the time this is all said and done. He was the wide receiver to a Baylor last year, narrowly outgained by Josh Cameron. He's going way too late. This is a bet on them making potential adjustments and probably seeing Ashton Hawkins going much higher. So we're done at receiver. We're going to fill this out with the running backs, quarterbacks, and tight ends. Kalen Black, I agree with you. I think Kalen Black is going to play a role. We certainly agree on that. Kalen Black is not a zero in this offense. Matthews goes, Chandler Morris goes. The bottom of quarterback is a little tough. We're going to have to throw a dart on one of these guys, which I don't love. Probably going to push this another round, but there are some players down here that we'll talk about as we get there. In terms of ADP, it's not my favorite. Underwood, I don't even think starts the whole year, but there have been reports that he will, so we'll see on that. But yeah, the top of running back in terms of ADP is not something that I love too much either. Roush for Stanford. You could throw a dart on Connors, I suppose, but back to rankings again. I'm not sure why we don't have other players in this range ranked higher. We're going to throw a dart on Lakesy just with our bet on Ole Miss. He's not my favorite in this range, as you can already see. Taking him a little ahead of ADP. I'm worried that players like Logan Diggs factor into that Ole Miss backfield a lot more than people think. But we already have the Ole Miss bet. So we'll continue on that offense, see what we can get. Nate Palmer goes. He's not the starter for TCU. Roush goes. I think that makes sense. Dean Connors pass catching back for Houston. They have a lot of guys there. Again, Underwood I don't think plays the whole year, but we'll see on that. Perfida, like once we get to this round of quarterback, I'm just not sure why you're not drafting guys that can run. Like Preston Stone runs, Kaliakmanis runs, Gronowski runs. Like I would rather have all of them around later or so. We will keep off a receiver. We're in the 200s now, so it just is what it is. And it's our pick. So we did not get Fagan. I'm going to take Lawfrey for Illinois. Again, likely to be a timeshare, backfield, 14, that runs the piss out of the ball with an 8.5 win total. I think he makes a lot of sense at pick 211, considering how efficient he was last year. But I do get the arguments against these players. But anyway, I guess the one counter argument to the running back conversation that we'll kind of close up here, you're not expecting your, 18th round pick. Like I'm not expecting Aiden Lawfrey to score. With the way my team is composed, I'm scoring two quarterbacks, probably one of the young guys, maybe Aller or Stockton. You're scoring your top two running backs at least. I would be scoring the top three receivers, Daquan Wright, assuming my team is good and makes it through unscathed or something. Like when you make these drafts, you're not expecting like Lawfrey to be the guy that scores for you in the playoffs. If he does, it's a huge positive. You need him to get you through weeks where you have guys on buys and stuff like that. Anyway, I do think he does make some sense. Maybe a little more than you, but I could be wrong on that too. As we close this out, we need to take a quarterback. Preston Stone is the guy. He's the SMU transfer, 4-star. Like his mobility, that Northwestern team is going to be improved. They won't be good, but they're going to be better. They have Griffin Wilde coming in from the FCS to catch some passes. But the big thing with Preston Stone is he is mobile. So hopefully that pays some dividends for us. We now need one more running back. Sorry, we need 10 to close this out. Not really many stacking options with the players we have late. Raridon from Notre Dame, I think, is a solid pick. Austin Lucky, I don't like taking him behind Delp. It will be a timeshare to some degree. But it's not my favorite play. Max Clear is gone, of course. Luke Reynolds is gone, of course. So we're kind of stuck in this weird range. My favorite tight end, Addison Estrenia, I think would be fine. Randy Pittman. Rardon's the top of ADP, and he's third on the board, so we'll take him. He might be a guy we need to move up to. He just received some positive reports coming out of Notre Dame's camp. Might be a little coach speak. It seems their staff is excited about Rardon coming into the year. In my opinion, bell cows win the tournaments, timeshares advance. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yeah. But I mean, I guess I scored a timeshare back in Jeremiah Love. But obviously, Jeremiah Love has some upside. A lot of other timeshare backs do not. So I do understand that as well. But yeah, I'm by no means against drafting the elite guys at the top. I believe we did it in this draft. We'll close this out and look at the board, especially the people we know at the top. This guy has 4 tight ends. That is unbelievable. This is also the $3 too. So it's not quite as big as the Bowl Mania, I think they call it. So refresh this quick and we'll take a look. Must be this one. So at the top of the board for us, Jordan Tyson, Anthony Hankerson, Waymon Jordan, who we are presuming to be the lead back, like a bell cow back for USC. That's what reports have suggested. I think there is some uncertainty with Eli Sanders there and Jordan coming from JUCO, but that's the presumption. Then we have Elijah Surratt, Austin Simmons. Surratt, I think, is fine. Wide receiver 1 from Indiana. Austin Simmons, we talked about him a lot. We did go with a bigger Ole Miss stack, so then we subsequently had some pass catchers with him as well as a Kewan Lacey in the backfield. Darnell Tate was below 80 for Ohio State. We also were able to stack him with Stayan. As far as the running backs from there, we have Adam Randall. This is basically looking at the camp reports and where he's been running. My concerns are Gideon Davidson, the 4-star freshman. Usually those guys don't run with the ones the first week of camp. So there is some downside here. But Randall is leading a committee of a team with a 10.5 win total. We take Aller a little below ADP, stack him with Trevor Pena. One-offs, Trent Walker and Eric Singleton at wide receiver. Take some late-round QB with Gunnar Stockton unstacked, but he is a little mobile. He's a little trickier to stack late. I would love it to have gotten Branch, but he was sniped from us a little bit. Tight end 1 is Daquan Wright, stacked with our quarterback. Late-round RBs are Roman Hemby. He will lead an Indiana timeshare, which Kalen Black will be involved in. Kewan Lacey, we'll see on him. He's, I think, our riskiest pick. He's a bet on the Ole Miss team, but I wouldn't be surprised if you do see like a Davis lead that backfield. Lawford, I think, is in a near 50-50 timeshare with Megan, and he goes at pick 232 sometimes, so why not? And to round it out, we took Preston Stone just to fill some buys. Rardon is our second tight end. There's a lot of guys I think you can throw darts on. The player we didn't mention, Ashton Hawkins. He should be going way higher. The reason he is not is he was cleared yesterday from his eligibility. So that is our team. It is not my favorite team. The upside is through the correlations, and the correlations are young QBs. It's there. I think it's a thin path. So this is not my best work, I would say. Some of the other players we know, Jordan Vanek, he takes Arch Manning and John Mateer as his 1-2 punch. I'm not the biggest Arch Manning guy. I see the case for it. Sarkisian routinely turns out elite offenses, and Mateer, we know his mobility. He rushed for over 800 yards last year. He balances that out with 2 running backs, Jordan Coleman, Wayshawn Parker. I love them both. Stacks Ryan Wingo right away. He gives you the Texas stack. Jacorian Moore's the 5-star. With Oregon, he should be their wide receiver 1 or close to it now that Evan Stewart's hurt. And then Jacoby Lane, he'll be neck and neck with Mekhi Lemon. Carson Beck for Miami, I think that is completely fine. I was going to say I'm sure he has the stack, which he does. Elijah Lofton is first tight end, taking over for Arroyo. Dylan Jones at running back. I don't know how that backfield shakes out. I think Cade Yaconelli and Darian Dupree probably play a role. Same thing with Virginia Tech. I think you see Braden Bennett battling Terrion Stewart. Terrion Stewart has about single-digit catches in his career. It's Iamaleava late, who I'm kind of a fan of at this price. He can run. Just not sure what the talent looks like out there and the efficiency. The situation is without a doubt worse for Iamaleava. He's the one that gets Branch, so I did not complete my stack with Georgia. I like Branch, obviously. Isaiah Horton on Alabama, Quasi Gilmer, that's the stack with Alva. Rounds it out with Ruben Owens late. Some of the other late picks. Emmanuel Henderson, he's the four-star Alabama transfer, getting a lot of hype. Takes a bet on Steven Jelly beat Ricky Collins. I'm not making that bet because you can get Preston Stone and some other players with job security late. And if that bet hits, you couldn't really think of a better offensive environment. The only other concern is Syracuse's schedule is extremely hard, and they have a 5.5 win total. Rashid Williams, I don't really have a take on. I wouldn't be surprised if that goes one way or the other. And then I'm a huge Norfleet guy. He was actually the tight end I wanted to take before I ended up with Raridon. The only other player I know in here is Wakey. Wakey, I liked his team a lot when he started. Gets Klubnik at 2. Huge McAllister guy. I don't like taking Hoover above 80, but he immediately completes a stack. So that's the only case I would really make for taking Hoover where he did. I'm a big fan of Marcel Reed and Taylon Green for their ability to run. He gets TJ Moore to complete the Cade Klubnik stack. Caden Lee, and that's in a spot where I was trying to take him as well after Simmons went off the board. So a little bit of a snipe there. Goes with drones, another mobile signal caller. Boykin playing in an air raid. Tawee Walker, lead back for Cincinnati. Mark Fletcher, lead back for Miami. Like was mentioned in the chat, this is about where a tier breaks at running back. So he gets the end of a tier, which is strong. Nolan Ray, I have no real feel on. I don't know if he's going to be the lead back or not. Jack Velling, Michael Trigg, 2 strong tight ends in position. Jordan Marshall, I think, is going to be at least involved in that running back room to some degree. And Haynes, we don't really know. He was sort of a failure with Alabama. I wouldn't be surprised if a younger player like Marshall beats him out at some point. Mike Matthews, a 5-star for Tennessee. In addition to that TCU stack he is going. Kedrick Riscano is going to be a factor in that Arizona running back room. We've heard reports about a 50-50 split between him and Ismail Mahdi. I don't really know if that's the offense I want to bet on. As was mentioned in the chat, I think there are some timeshares you do want to stay away from. That's one I think is worth staying away from. Tamari Elston for Auburn. This pick I like. He'll lead a backfield with Jeremiah Cobb most likely. And he finishes out with Von Booth. That could be a four-way timeshare. They have a 4-star sophomore, Xavier Gatton. They bring in Fluff Bothwell. That backfield could be a mess. Totals 3.5. So parts of that team I really like. Parts I am a little skeptical on. But overall, I think that work is probably better than mine. Which is kind of what I understand. These drafts are especially hard live. My favorite spot to draft is right here in this 8-9 range with Dylan Edwards, Mekhi Hughes. You do get one of the elite quarterbacks running back, and then you can sort of take your pick between one elite receiver or another bell cow back. If I'm not in one of those spots, I would rather draft early, like a 1, 2, 3, or 4. My least favorite spots to draft are around the 6-7 area where you're being Tyson and Sellers, or just at the end of drafts where you have to talk about Arch Manning, Jeremiah Love, or Isaac Brown. Turning back to the chat, I'm out of NDPSU RBs. Maybe that's out on. I could see a case for Love. He's going so high, though. That's the problem. Like, you're spending to get him in Notre Dame after the injuries last year, especially. Don't think they're going to use him in a bell cow role. So you're relying on efficiency. And then with Price, who's the second running back off the board, they use Aeneas Williams on third down. So, I mean, you do not have a clear handcuff behind them. The Penn State RBs, I think you can make a larger case for. That offense is extremely run-heavy. Both of those guys are chasing, like, career numbers with Penn State. I think, like, they're going to end up both being top 5 in Penn State rushing, assuming they get another 1,000 yards and no one gets hurt. So I'm a little more in on, and plus, like, Keatron Allen at cost, I think, is a little more palatable. Singleton you have to pay for, which we're right in line with ADP on that. So I don't think he's, like, undervalued or overvalued, but their win total is huge. They're going to absolutely smash teams this year. You make a point on the transfer wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, they brought in 3 good transfer wide receivers. They will be efficient as a passing game. I'm not sure if that's how they wanna play. You mentioned Pena, they get Devontae Ross from Troy. That passing game is gonna be a lot better. Bob also says I prefer using offensive efficiency projections rather than win-loss totals. Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. Win-loss is sort of just like an easy way, sort of like a back of the napkin way. Definitely easier than efficiency projections. You're doing the more thorough evaluation. A win total is going to give you is this guy projected to be playing with positive game script more often or not? Yeah, I mean, if you're using like efficiency stuff along with win totals, you'd be looking at like Quentin Joyner, or maybe your later on dart throws would be a little bit different. As far as like a retort to some of the guys I like, you could definitely poke a hole in the efficiency of Illinois. They have a good win total. They run the hell out of the ball. Will they be efficient? That I have a little more question. Is there ever a reason to take goals in a committee situation? Go early? No. Opportunity cost is very high. You almost need one of them to get injured. In the case of Illinois, they both go outside the top one. So I don't see any reason not to do it there. Another case might be like a Florida. That one's a little on the edge because Jaden Baugh is a top 100 pick, but you can just tack on Jacoby Jackson in the 20th round. Otherwise, I can't really think of too many committee situations where you're really in line to get both. I'm not taking both Penn State backs. I'm not taking both Texas backs or Texas A&M or Notre Dame. They're just too expensive at the top. Or, like a Louisville. I don't want to take Isaac Brown and Duke Watson. If they're both cheap, I think you could make the case. The whole calculus there is opportunity cost because Bubba sort of brought this up a little bit earlier. In the game where Katron Allen had 120 yards and 1 touchdown, Nick Singleton had 100 yards. That's like the best case outcome you could ever possibly hope for in a timeshare where both guys are healthy. Assuming a game is competitive, God forbid a team is behind, like Penn State got behind in that game, more than likely you're looking at one running back scoring well, if even that. So sometimes you're kind of betting on injuries in these situations, or that's the best case scenario for you. My short answer would be if the committee is cheap, I'm more likely to do it. If it's expensive, I'm completely out. But I think that'll do it for us today, unless another question comes through. Thank you guys for watching. It is much appreciated. If you want access to the ranks, you can get them for $9.95 for the whole summer. It's the same link. It's in the Discord. Otherwise, I never said this at the beginning. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a thumbs up if you did enjoy this. We'll be back again soon doing some more best ball. If you guys have stuff you want to see, if you want to be in the draft or talk about it, let me know. Comments help a ton. We'll check on the audio. If it's bad, turn into a new computer. But thank you guys. We will see you again soon.